Off and rolling straight out of the gates with some big news for you. The Eagles have landed their Mannion. Sean Mannion hired as their new offensive coordinator. The 33-year-old has only been a coach for 2 seasons, Barrett. He was an assistant quarterback coach in Green Bay in 2024 and then spent last season as the QB coach. He beat out 3 others who had multiple interviews with the Eagles: Jim Bob Cooter, Gerard Johnson, and Josh Grizzard. Prior to his coaching career, Mannion spent 9 seasons as a backup quarterback in the NFL, mostly with the Rams and Vikings. He was a 3rd-round pick by L.A. way back in 2015. With that, good to see you. Welcome into Birds Huddle, presented by Toyota, official automotive partner of the NFL, along with the Super Bowl champ, Barrett Brooks. I'm Danny Palmel. So here we are, Barrett, 3 weeks in the making. Your initial reaction of this hire of the new offensive coordinator?
I mean, it just happened within an hour. You know, take this rundown. It's over now. We're going to talk about Sean Mannion. At this point, I'm anxious to see what this kid can do. And I say kid is new in coaching, 2 years in coaching. He is a 9-year NFL career, former quarterback. We'll see how that mixes up, with Jalen Hurts. And, you got to look at the fact that, the offensive side of the ball, we've got to get it together. We can't continue to do this. This is what, 7, just like you said, 7 offensive coordinators that you had to deal with the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Hopefully we find something here and he sticks here.
Yeah, different play callers in Jalen Hurts' ear for sure. Let's dive into our 3-point stance here. And guess what? It's about Sean Mannion, presented by Toyota. And Sean Mannion is a high upside hire for the Eagles. Now, Barrett, you do not like the idea of them hiring an OC who had never called plays. So what do you think about bringing this guy in who reportedly blew them away in the interview process?
Well, I mean, I don't know much about this young man at this point. When I say young man, 33, I'm 53 years old, so I'm saying young man. But I will say this isn't uncommon for what, this Eagles organization does. They go in and they find guys that fit their culture, fit who they are. They don't go with the most popular person that's in the bunch. They always go into what fits in their locker room. Maybe he is the guy that can come in and be a part of that and work himself into the system. I mean, does he get along? Will he get along with Jalen Hurts? How that relationship is going to go. 2 former quarterback and now, a former quarterback and now offensive coordinator. We'll see. Is he going to call the plays? We're going to see. There's a lot that we're going to have to go through, and this is a long off season. And, we got a month to figure it out, going into, getting these younger players, at the combine, things of that nature. So I'm just hoping we get him going in the right direction.
All right, our second stance is Nick Sirianni is going to be very involved in the offense. So, I mean, he has called plays before. Maybe he'll revert back to that. I mean, he definitely will be even more on the hot seat if he's more involved, and results will matter. But what do you think about that?
Well, that's really going to be the big thing. Is Nick going to go back to calling plays? How invested will he be, throughout the game as far as being involved in the play calling? We'll see, how does Stoutland figure into all this stuff? All these things will be arranged, now, and they have a little more time now because we didn't go to the Super Bowl. I'm not used to being, not going to Super Bowl. I was kind of spoiled.
Right.
But, I can't wait to see what this guy comes in and do and how he can come in and bring his little, sauce to the mix. I believe that he is somebody that's an up-and-coming guy. You hear, word around the NFL that he's somebody that people really respect, and we'll see as we go forward. But, I have no doubt that, Coach Sirianni made the best decision, and this is the best decision for the Eagles team.
And if I'm Nick Sirianni and I'm the one ultimately that's going to be left holding the bag, why not call the plays? Why not be more involved? I'm going to be the one that everyone's looking at as, well, what's going wrong? How come they're not doing this or that? So why not be more involved?
Well, it's not like he can't. I believe he can. He's an offensive coordinator with the Colts. He split time, calling plays there. He called him when he first got here, but he saw there was a little difference. He trusted his guy that he has as offensive coordinator and handed those duties over to him. So I believe that he can. He's been in the league a long time now, and he's had great success. I believe he can become a play caller as they go forward. But, I want to see what Sean does. I want to see Sean Mannion come in and take hold of the reins and see how that relationship works with him.
Listen, they cast a wide net. There were a lot of people who came in here to interview for this job. A lot of them that you really liked, who you favored over others, guys like Brian Dable, who you were really interested in. They didn't hire him, didn't hire Mike McDaniel. What do you make of that as the fact that they couldn't snag those guys and it kind of trickled down here to Sean Mannion getting the gig?
I believe they could have snagged them, but it just didn't fit, what the Eagles were looking for in an offensive coordinator. I mean, this is everybody saying, oh, this is not a destination point for these coaches. They don't want to be here because this, and that. It has nothing to do with that. This is where people want to be. They want to be. I don't know if the Eagles offer them or not, but, this is a place where a coach wants to be. This is a Super Bowl winning team, a Super Bowl winning coach, quarterback. They have all the tools you need on the offensive side of the ball to be successful. We already know the defense is going to ball. So why not, as an offensive coordinator, come in and take the reins and be successful coming, right out the gate. So there is an opportunity for him to come in and really show how good Sean Mannion is and how good Nick Sirianni is if he does call the plays.
All right, let's get to our third stance. Sean Mannion should be able to help Jalen Hurts. And how about it, Barrett? This guy's 33 years old. You feel like his age would make him more relatable to the younger players. I mean, Jalen Hurts is a guy who's in his mid-20s but acts like he's like 35 or something like that. But at the same time, his youth should help him relate to the players a bit more, having most recently been in the NFL.
No question. 2 years removed from the NFL. He knows how it is to be an NFL player. He's only 2 years removed from it. I will say this. Him being the age he is, he's still old enough that he commands respect. But then, he probably knows a little bit more about the culture of being these young guys and understanding what they want. I mean, I'm anxious to see how Jalen goes in and accepts him. And, he's a former quarterback. So he's going to know, all right, you should use this technique. You should use this, and stepping into throws. Or, why don't you try this out? I believe that kind of relationship right there could really, really help him out from a quarterback standpoint. So that could be something they were looking at also. How can he make Jalen Hurts a better player on the field as far as mechanics and things of that nature? What he's looking for, going through his reads with him. Those are things that, from a quarterback standpoint, it's invaluable. Just be like somebody trying to, coach the offensive line who really doesn't know what's, going on in there.
Yeah.
Well, he's a quarterback. He knows what it is to be a quarterback. So I can see him being, having an even tighter relationship with Jalen Hurts as they go forward.
Man, there have been a turnstiles of offensive coordinators coming through this organization. And listen, that is part and parcel of the success that the Eagles have had. So really a byproduct of that. But you bring in Sean Mannion, and he's a guy that you said can relate to Jalen Hurts more. What do you think that relationship will be like, and how can they accentuate it? I mean, there was definitely a point where Jalen Hurts wasn't using his legs as much, and that was maybe part of the design of the offense. But you got to use all of the things that make him great at all times.
And that's the one thing. Jalen wants to be great. So since Jalen wants to be great, he's going to take all the good things that, that Sean Mannion can give him. And I believe that he's going to be a better player this year. It's like, he never goes into the same year status level. He doesn't. He's always going up. And this year, I believe it's going to be another turning point for him where he's going to go up again. And I think, Sean Mannion, he'll have to show him a little bit, let me know what you know. How can you expect me to follow you when I'm a Super Bowl MVP? So he's going to have to be very, very, very good of expressing who he is as a coach and how he can make Jalen Hurts a better quarterback. That's going to be a necessity.
Yeah, regardless of what happened this last season, this is a very desirable job for anybody out there in the NFL. You got a bevy of offensive weapons: Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, just to name a few. Dallas Goedert coming off a career year. But specifically A.J. Brown, somebody who was disgruntled last season for whatever the reason was, which we may never know, but all the same, he wasn't feeling like his usual self. They've come off the Super Bowl, and he's getting back to work. But what does this offensive coordinator hire, do you think, mean for a guy like A.J. Brown? You would think that they're trying to accentuate all the areas where the Eagles are top-notch, and wide receiver and him being one of them.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they're going to have to do. He's got to show those guys, too. I can get the ball to you. I can scheme the ball to you. I can stack plays that, all right, we ran this play over here. This is the set we got from the defense. Or we're going to go in the same personnel package. We're going to run something different because we saw him react off this, and we're going to counter that with this. Those are the type of things you got to do as an offensive coordinator. That's what successful ones do. We got to have a play to set this play up. Stacking plays is definitely got to be something. And also motion, being under center, all these things got to be intertwined to make, the ball, go out to where it's supposed to go. And as long as the ball's getting to AJ, he's going to be okay. But you got to game plan those type of things.
Create mismatches and things like that.
Absolutely.
And listen, could this be a watershed moment for the return of some exciting times at Lincoln Financial Field after a disappointing season? Only time will tell.
Moves on.
Yeah, we're back with the news that the Eagles have landed their guy, new offensive coordinator Sean Mannion. The news announced just a short while ago. Mannion has only been coaching for 2 seasons. Prior to that, he spent 9 years as a backup quarterback in the NFL. No play calling experience, but highly regarded as an up-and-coming coach. We now welcome in Mr. John Clark. And what do you think of this news, John? Been a 3-week search for this guy. They finally got the man that they want.
Well, I tell you, to be honest, I thought they were going to go with somebody who has called plays before. I think we've seen what happened with Kevin Patullo and Brian Johnson, guys who hadn't called plays in the NFL before, and you've got a Super Bowl level offense. You've got a lot of high-paid players, and so I thought they would go with somebody who has called plays before. But talking to some people, the Eagles were blown away and really, really impressed by Sean Mannion. There's a lot of people in Green Bay in that area who believe he could be a head coach someday, but when you see just 2 years of coaching experience coming from being a player and a quarterback's coach, you know, I thought that they would want the play calling experience. Now, we don't have the answer yet as to who's going to call the plays. Right. Will it be Sean Mannion or Nick Sirianni? But I do think that he's a rising star, and a lot of people are very impressed by him. So he has a lot of good ideas, and he comes from a good tree, of course, working under Matt LaFleur. Yeah. He's worked with Jordan Love, but he comes from that Sean McVay tree. So I like him as a prospect, but I did think they would go with somebody who's called plays before in the league.
Yeah, I did also. I thought they were going to go in a direction where they had somebody that had, you know, kind of like done it before. We need somebody that's done it before. Well, they thought differently. This got to be one of the best interviews I've ever seen, you know, for him. I mean, that anybody's ever done, you know, and convince a coach to come in, an offensive coordinator, only had 2 years experience of being a coach in the NFL. That's kind of crazy to me, but hey, they know better than I do.
Not the first time they've hired a quarterback's coach from Green Bay, John. They hired Andy Reid way back in 1999, but they're bringing in someone from the outside and not promoting from within, from someone who Nick Sirianni is close with necessarily. So an outside voice might bring some of that balance that they're looking for.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And look, I trust Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman with the people they hired, because as you said, they found Andy Reid, who hadn't called plays in the NFL before.
Absolutely.
As a quarterback's coach in Green Bay. They found Nick Sirianni, and Doug Peterson was not a guy that was on everybody's radar. So they know about the emotional intelligence of these guys. But you saw Andy Reid become one of the greatest head coaches of all time. They found him first. So I trust that when they see somebody like Sean Mannion, and I heard he had a great interview and they're very impressed by him, that they know what they're looking for. And you talked about it. An outside voice coming in is coming from a good system.
Yeah,
you like that system that Green Bay runs, coming from the Sean McVay tree. So I do trust in the Eagles. I don't know a ton about him, and he hasn't called plays before, so who am I to judge? I do think, and I do hear that he is a guy that is well regarded and is a future possibility at head coach and a future play caller, but they're taking a chance here. But they've been right before.
Let's hope Jalen Hurts gets someone with some staying power.
That's it right there.
There's been a lot of guys in his ear over these past several seasons, 7 different guys calling plays. And, you know, whatever you make of it, Howie Roseman has said this is a quarterback factory. And then maybe that extends to the offensive coordinator, former quarterback Sean Mannion.
Right.
What will this do for Jalen Hurts, though, having a guy who's played the position and now trying to help orchestrate this offense, Barrett?
I'm thinking, number one, did Jalen have any, you know, input in this? I don't know. We'll see. But I do like the fact that, you know, he's a younger guy. He kind of understands what these younger athletes do, this younger generation. You know, maybe that's the thing. He's just a cultural guy that can go in there and really help Jalen take it to the next level, being a younger guy, understanding. He's only 33 years old, and he's now an offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. So we'll see how that relationship's going to come together. The relationship between him, Nick Sirianni, and, you know, the offensive line coach, you know, he has a lot to do with what they do. Well, I've been hearing, you know, so we'll see about that. Stoutland University is still open for what I hear. So he's going to have a lot of control over what they do in the running game.
And I like what Danny mentioned. He is a former quarterback most of the time as a backup. As a backup pretty much all the time. And, you know, some of the smartest guys on the team.
Yeah, you've been holding the clipboard for a while.
Look at Doug Peterson.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I do like this. I'm a little surprised that he doesn't have the experience as a play caller with what we saw first-time play caller last year with Kevin Patullo. Jalen Hurts had mentioned the sequencing of the plays. It's, you know, you could have all these good plays, but it's when you call them against what defense.
Yeah, you got to stack plays. You know, you got to run this play, to set up this play.
Yeah.
Or you're running this play over here because you saw something over there that you saw that you could run again, you know. I mean, those are things that we didn't see, you know, into this game. It was just like, all right, we're going to run this play. We're going to run that play. We're going to run this play. There has to be a method to their madness of setting plays up, you know, what we saw with, you know, the Rams, what we saw with the 49ers.
Well, like John said, he really impressed the Eagles with his interview. This guy can command the room for sure. Let's hope he gains the respect of the players and hits the ground running here in Philadelphia. Thanks, John. We appreciate the input as always.